You think you're looking at a star. That's your first mistake. You assume that when light hits your eyes, it's reporting something current, recent, relevant, as if the universe is politely keeping you updated, as if reality sends push notifications. No, what you're seeing is a receipt, a delayed one, sometimes millions of years late. That star you're admiring, it may have already collapsed, detonated, or quietly extinguished itself before your species figured out how to sharpen rocks. And you're standing there, nodding appreciatively, convinced you're witnessing the present. That sounds reasonable. It isn't. Because space does not transmit now. Space only transmits then. Light doesn't travel instantly. It moves at a fixed speed, and that speed is not fast enough to preserve your intuition. Every meter of distance adds delay. Every extra light year pushes reality further into the past. Distance isn't just where something is. Distance is when you're allowed to know about it. You were taught space as a map, coordinates, directions. Maybe a scale model with tiny planets on wires. That model lies to you, because in the real universe, distance edits information, aggressively. When a star explodes, the explosion doesn't announce itself. There is no universal alarm, no cosmic breaking news banner. The event happens locally, violently, and in complete silence to the rest of the cosmos. The light begins its journey outward, carrying the only obituary that matters, and it crawls. If that star is 1,000 light years away, the universe enforces a rule you don't get to know for 1,000 years. Not because it's cruel, because physics doesn't care. You might think, okay, fine, but at least somewhere the explosion is happening right now. That's the next illusion. You believe in a universal now, a cosmic present tense. A master clock ticking in the background of reality, keeping everything synchronized. That belief did not survive measurement. There is no single moment that everyone agrees on, no shared cosmic heartbeat. Time is local. Events only have a definite order if something can physically connect them. If no signal can travel between two events, physics refuses to declare which came first. Your brain hates this. It wants sequence, cause before effect, beginning, middle, end. The universe declines. When you look at a star, you're not just looking into the past, you're participating in a disagreement about time itself. From your perspective, the light arrives now. From the star's perspective, it left long ago. And there is no higher authority to reconcile those viewpoints. That's not philosophy, that's data. This is why sci-fi gets it wrong so confidently. Faster than light communication, instant awareness, galactic empires coordinating in real time across spiral arms. It looks right. It violates everything we've measured. No signal outruns light. Not messages, not warnings, not causality. You don't get to cheat just because the story needs pacing, which means something uncomfortable follows. There are stars you can see tonight that are already gone. Not metaphorically, not dying, gone. Their fuel exhausted, their cores collapsed, their outer layers scattered into space or swallowed entirely. You just haven't received the memo yet. Your eyes are late. Your telescopes are late. Every image is an archival photo. And the deeper you look, the worse it gets. You might think telescopes let us see farther. Wrong again. They let us see earlier. When astronomers aim a powerful telescope at a distant galaxy, they're not zooming in across space. They're drilling backward through time, past planets, past stars, past the formation of elements you rely on, past the existence of anything that could recognize an image. Some of the galaxies we observe existed before Earth had a crust, before the sun stabilized, before atoms had organized into anything remotely useful, and yet there they are, frozen, preserved, hanging in the sky as if they still belong to the present. They don't. This is where intuition collapses completely. You assume the universe you see is the universe that exists. But observation is always behind reality, always chasing it, always losing. The universe does not wait to be seen. Events happen whether or not they're observed. Stars explode in darkness. Black holes merge without witnesses. Entire regions of space undergo transformations that will never be visually recorded because nothing carrying light escapes. For most of cosmic history, no eyes existed at all, no detectors, no observers, just physics unfolding without commentary. That alone should unsettle you. Because it means perception is optional. Reality is not. Yeah. You might try to regain footing here. At least once we detect something, we know when it happened. Careful. Detection doesn't tell you when an event occurred in any absolute sense. It tells you when the signal arrived here, and those are not the same thing. Astronomers routinely see the aftermath of events long after they're finished. Shockwaves expanding into emptiness, remnants cooling, debris fields without a visible cause. The explosion already over, the light still en route. Sometimes we detect the ripple before the flash. Sometimes we feel the vibration of space-time itself before any photons show up. That should bother you, because it means light isn't the whole story. It's just the slowest, most obvious messenger. And relying on it exclusively gives you a distorted picture of reality. Your senses evolved for survival on a planet, not for truth in a universe where distance and time are entangling. So when you say I'm seeing a star, what you really mean is a signal from a process that may no longer exist has finally reached my location. That's a very different statement, and it has consequences. Because if the universe only ever shows you its past, uncertainty becomes fragile. The sky is not a guarantee of what's out there. It's a historical record with missing pages, edited by distance, filtered by physics, and delivered late. You are not watching the universe unfold. You are watching what survived the delay. And that raises a more dangerous question, one your intuition is completely unprepared for. If now isn't shared, if observation lags behind reality, if distance rewrites time, then what exactly does it mean for something to exist when no signal has arrived yet? You still think time behaves. It doesn't. You're carrying a quiet assumption right now that time is a background feature, calmly flowing everywhere, doing the same thing for everyone. That assumption works on Earth because Earth is small, slow, and polite. The universe is none of those. Once you leave the surface of this planet, conceptually, not physically, time stops pretending to be universal. It fractures. It negotiates. It bends under conditions your intuition was never built to survive. You are told time dilation is tiny, negligible, a technical footnote. That's comforting. It's also false. Time dilation isn't rare. It's constant. You are already experiencing it. You're just not dramatic enough for your brain to notice. Every clock moves at its own pace. The only reason yours agrees with your neighbor's is because you share a planet, a gravitational field, and a velocity that's laughably slow by cosmic standards. Change any of those, and agreement collapses. You think motion through space is separate from motion through time. No, they are the same budget. Spend more on one, you get less of the other. That's not metaphor. That's measurement. Satellites orbiting Earth experience time differently than you do. Their clocks tick faster. Not symbolically, actually. Fast enough that engineers must correct for it constantly, or your navigation systems would fail in minutes. This isn't experimental fringe physics. This is infrastructure. Your phone works because time is broken. Now scale that up. Imagine two observers, one near a massive object, another far away. They look at the same event. They do not agree on when it happened. They do not even agree on how long it lasted. There is no referee clock to settle the argument. Both are correct. That sentence should make you uncomfortable, because it means your idea of before you were born is not absolute. It depends on who you ask, where they were, how fast they were moving, how deep they were in gravity's grip. A star dying before you were born is a claim that only makes sense locally. Elsewhere in the universe, the timeline rearranges itself. From some perspectives, that star's death is ancient history. From others, it hasn't happened yet. And physics allows all of those descriptions simultaneously. You don't like that? Your brain wants a clean sequence. The universe refuses. This is why long-distance cosmic events are so misleading. You imagine them as happening over there, while you stand safely over here, both sharing the same ticking clock. But distance is not passive. Distance participates. As separation increases, synchronization fails. The further apart two observers are, the less meaningful it becomes to say they agree on what is happening now. At planetary scales, you can fake it. At stellar scales, it starts to wobble. At galactic scales, the concept breaks. Which brings us back to that dead star. You think you're late to the event. That's the wrong framing. You are not late. You are elsewhere. Light reaching you now defines your present. The star's collapse defined its own. Those presents are not required to overlap. They don't even have to be comparable. This is where sci-fi collapses under its own confidence. Instant communication implies instant agreement about time. Faster than light travel implies causality in reverse. Messages arriving before they're sent. Physics doesn't forbid these ideas because they're dramatic. It forbids them because they shred consistency. Reality doesn't allow paradoxes. It allows unintuitive bookkeeping, and the bookkeeping says, time is local and the universe doesn't coordinate. So, when you imagine watching cosmic events unfold in sequence, this star explodes, then that galaxy forms. Then you look up and see it. You're imposing a human narrative on a system that doesn't care about narrative. Events don't line up neatly. They overlap, disagree, and reorder depending on who's measuring. Your intuition keeps insisting, surely there must be a true order beneath it all. There isn't. Only relationships that can be measured. Only signals that arrive. Only clocks that tickle the universe just enough to reveal their disagreement. The deeper implication is uncomfortable. If time itself depends on motion and gravity, then the universe is not evolving in lockstep. Different regions are aging at different rates. Some parts of the cosmos are, quite literally, further along in time than others, not metaphorically, physically. That means the age of the universe is not a single number in any meaningful sense. It's an average, a convenience, a human compromise. From certain vantage points, the universe has experienced more time than it has from yours. From others, less. And you are standing inside one very specific slice, mistaking it for the whole. This is why cosmic humility isn't optional. It's enforced. Your perspective is not privileged. Your clock is not authoritative. Your now is not shared. The star you're seeing died before you were born, according to you. Elsewhere, that statement may not even be coherent. And that opens the door to something even more destabilizing. Because if time fractures under motion and gravity, what happens when gravity becomes extreme? You've been tolerating time's bad behavior so far because it's been subtle. Satellites, orbits. Annoying, but manageable. Annoying, but manageable. Now remove the training wheels. Take gravity and stop pretending it's just a force that makes things fall. Gravity is not a tug. It's not a pull. It's not a vibe. Gravity is time distortion with mass attached. The stronger the gravity, the slower time moves. Not symbolically, not visually, physically. And no, this is not one of those technically true but practically irrelevant facts. This is the operating system of the universe. Near a massive object, time doesn't just slow down, it becomes uncooperative. Clocks lose agreement. Cause and effect start to smear. The idea of a shared present doesn't just weaken, it breaks. You've heard of black holes, you think you understand them. Dense objects, strong gravity, nothing escapes. That's the cartoon version. A black hole is what happens when space-time gives up trying to behave intuitively. As you approach one, from your own perspective, nothing feels special at first. Your clock ticks normally, your thoughts remain coherent. Physics, locally, still works. But to an observer far away watching you fall, you slow. Not metaphorically, visibly, measurably. Your clock drags, your motion stretches, your signals redshift into oblivion. You never quite cross the boundary, at least not in any finite amount of their time. From their perspective, you freeze. From yours, you fall right through. Both are correct. This is not a paradox. It's a failure of intuition. The universe does not promise a single story that everyone agrees on. It promises consistency within measurement. And that consistency is brutal. At the edge of a black hole, time itself tilts so violently, but the future becomes unavoidable. Every possible path leads inward, not because of force, but because the geometry of space-time demands it. Escape stops being a direction. It stops being a concept. This matters because it exposes the lie hiding underneath your everyday experience, that time is something you move through. You don't. Time is something that moves through you at a rate set by your environment. Change the environment enough, and your experience of reality diverges catastrophically from someone else's. Which brings us to the early universe. You imagine the beginning as a moment, a dramatic flash, a cosmic starting gun. That image is comforting. It's also wrong. The early universe was not a place where everything happened at once. It was a regime where the rules you rely on, separate space, separate time, stable causality, hadn't settled yet. Extreme density, extreme energy, gravity so strong that our current understanding of time starts to lose coherence. Ask what happened before a certain moment, and physics stops answering. Not because it's hiding something, because the question assumes a timeline that may not exist. Before requires a stable time dimension. The early universe does not guarantee you one. This is where your confidence should fully collapse. Because if time can slow, stretch, disagree, fracture, and possibly emerge rather than exist eternally, then your entire mental model of reality is upside down. Time is not the stage, it's part of the play. And then there's dark matter. You don't see it, you don't touch it, you don't interact with it directly. And yet its gravity sculpts galaxies, bends light, and dictates large-scale structure. Which means most of the universe's mass is invisible to your senses and indifferent to your expectations. That alone should make you cautious about trusting what you see. Dark matter doesn't emit light. It doesn't care about your telescopes. It reveals itself only through what it does to space-time. Through gravity, through time distortion, through motion that makes no sense unless something unseen is there. So now stack the implications. You are seeing stars that may already be gone. You are measuring time that does not flow universally. You are embedded in space-time that bends, stretches, and disagrees depending on mass and motion. And most of the matter shaping that space-time is invisible to you. At what point do you stop trusting intuition? Because intuition insists on continuity, on smoothness, on a universe that behaves like a well-edited documentary. Reality is closer to raw data. Messy, asymmetric, locally consistent, and globally indifferent. Understanding the universe does not mean forming a clean mental picture. It means learning which questions survive contact with measurement. Where am I? Survives. What time is it? Everywhere? Does not. What does this look like? Is optional. What can interact with what? Is fundamental. Black holes don't just challenge your understanding of space. They destroy your assumptions about time. The early universe doesn't just feel distant. It may not even be meaningfully ordered the way you expect. And dark matter reminds you that visibility is a privilege, not a guarantee. So when you say, "That star died before I was born," you're making a statement that only works inside a narrow bubble of assumptions. Weak gravity, slow motion, local clocks, photon-based awareness. Outside that bubble, time fractures, observation lags, existence decouples from perception. The universe does not owe you coherence at human scales, and it certainly does not care whether you feel oriented, because the final reframing is this. Understanding the universe isn't about knowing what's out there. It's about knowing which intuitions to discard. And you're not done discarding yet. By now, you should be uneasy. Good. That means your intuition is finally losing, because the last illusion to collapse is the most stubborn one. The idea that you occupy a special moment in the universe, that your now is somehow centered, that the cosmos is arranged so events culminate neatly in your awareness. That belief has never survived a single instrument. You are not at the edge of time. You are not at the center of anything. You are not witnessing a synchronized universe unfolding for your benefit. You are sampling delayed signals from a system that does not acknowledge you. When you look up, you are not surrounded by the present. You are immersed in layers of pasts, stacked unevenly, arriving out of order, filtered by distance, gravity, and speed. Some of those layers correspond to objects that no longer exist. Others correspond to processes that are still ongoing locally, but finished elsewhere long ago. The sky is not a scene. It's a collision of timelines. And you stand inside one thin slice of it, mistaking that slice for reality. Here's the uncomfortable truth you've been circling the entire time. There is no moment where everything that exists lines up. The universe does not assemble itself into a single frame. Existence is not synchronized. Events don't wait for confirmation. Stars don't check whether their light has arrived. Black holes don't pause their mergers until someone's telescope is pointed in the right direction. Reality happens locally, then disperses whatever evidence survives the journey. Sometimes that evidence is light. Sometimes it's a ripple in space-time. Sometimes it's nothing you can ever detect. You live downstream of causality, which means your picture of the universe is always incomplete and always will be. That's not a failure of technology. It's a consequence of physics. Even with perfect instruments, even with infinite patience, you never get the full story. You get fragments, arrivals, traces. You reconstruct events that already finished playing out using signals that endured long enough to reach you. This is why certainty is dangerous, because the universe is not obligated to preserve its history in ways you can read. Entire civilizations of stars could rise and fall in distant galaxies, and unless their light intersects your world line at the right moment, they may as well never have existed as far as you're concerned. And yet, they did. Indifference is baked into the structure. So when you ask, "Where am I in the universe?" the honest answer is not poetic. You are inside a causally limited bubble, bounded by how fast information can reach you and how distorted time becomes along the way. Everything you know about the cosmos fits inside that bubble. Everything else is inaccessible, not because it's hidden, but because physics enforces boundaries without explanation. This is the part no pop science graphic prepares you for. Understanding the universe does not grant you a grand overview. It teaches you restraint. It teaches you which questions collapse under their own assumptions, which intuitions fail outside the atmosphere, which stories your brain invents to feel oriented. The universe does not run on stories. It runs on constraints, speed limits, curvature, conservation, local interactions, and those constraints are merciless to human expectations. The star that died before you were born is not special. It's normal. Countless stars you see tonight share the same fate. Some died quietly, some catastrophically, some left behind objects so extreme that time itself behaves differently near them. You don't know which is which by looking. You can't, because looking is already too late. The deeper realization, the one that actually matters, is this: you are never observing what is. You're observing what was allowed to reach you. That distinction demolishes certainty. It also defines what real understanding looks like. Not comfort, not completion, not a tidy cosmic narrative with a beginning, a middle, and a reassuring end. Understanding means accepting that your knowledge is local, delayed, conditional, and incomplete, and that this is not a bug. It's the price of existing in a universe where space and time are inseparable. So when you look up tonight and feel awe, that's appropriate. But if you feel confident, if you feel like you finally get the universe, you've missed the point entirely. The universe is not here to be gotten. It is here to be measured, survived, and continually reinterpreted as your assumptions fail one by one. And they will keep failing, because the final truth is simple, and it is not comforting. You don't live in the present of the universe, you live in its echoes.